Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Amplified and Intensified, the #1 cybersecurity podcast with your host, Eric Taylor. Myself, Shiva Maharaj. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? 2020 has been an interesting year so far, hasn't it?
2022.
Yes, See, I'm already fucked up.
You're going back to pre-COVID.
I know, man. Would that be 2019 by now? Whatever.
Well, I mean, COVID shit the bed in March, I want to say. Or at least that's when the world shit the bed.
Yeah, to be honest, the world may be shitting the bed again. Who knows?
Hey, there's a variant every quarter.
Oh my God. Anyway, yes.
Without getting too political, let's get political about a U.S. senator ringing the bell for Yealink.
Yealink. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting article that was being dropped about where they were simply talking about if you're using Yealink, then you really should be very cautious about what it's doing and some of the information and the reports that were actually being disclosed on. And I've tried to look since this dropped. It says in here that a letter was obtained by FIN7 where it's talking about Yealink, which is a Chinese firm that goes through and packet sniffs all your network information and things of that nature. If it's you got the software installed on your desktop and is communicating with the Yealink phone. I've been looking for that report to find out exactly some of the details, but I haven't really seen it yet.
I've got I got three things I want to talk about here in terms of Yealink. It's part one, it's a jump box onto your network.
Yes.
And most providers, unfortunately, they do flat networks, which means no VLANing. And what makes this worse is that the security company did some research and they saw that if you plug your computer into the Yealink phone as a switch and then go into the network, everything you do or everything you pass through that phone is decrypted and parsed.
That's what it was. For some reason, I had it on top of my mind that it was a Yealink provisioning software or something, a communications manager.
That, and then they're saying that it communicates to China 3 times a day, which, okay, it's a Chinese company. Maybe there's infrastructure over there. And it's only our government institutions that are using these phones and the SMB and some of the enterprise.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks who are doing the whole remote from work remotely infrastructure that's using a ton of
all Yealink, my clients, but it's all VLAN. So the issue for me, it's relatively moot, but the fact that it's still on the network means there's a foothold, or as one of our favorite channel vendors would say, there is persistence. It's not impossible to jump across a VLAN. I think you of all people can talk about that.
A properly configured firewall could easily allow for that to happen. Yes. Really, a lot of folks will want to do network segmentation where it's on its own network. That's pretty good. Making sure there's no cross links or anything like that between the network segmentations or the segmentations of the networks. No matter if you do a VLAN or you do network segmentation, you're going to have to put something in place. So that way you're monitoring, make sure there's no bridge or no cross communication or anything like that.
Speaking of monitoring, I posted something on social media this morning that 2 years ago, we were kicking around the idea of just logging everything. And we were in I don't want to call it a peer group because I don't consider those people my peers, but we were in a group chat with some people. That happens once a week back in the beginning of COVID. And they all but laughed us, or me, out of the room for saying, log everything. There's no such thing as data that's more important than the other. It's all important. Protect it all.
Yep.
And now that seems to be best practice. So you, as Mr. IR, how would you mitigate the Yealink threat based on what it can scan the data going through it, and it communicates to China and gives a sysadmin unlimited rights onto the network it's plugged in on?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's almost rip out Yealink and go with Cisco or something.
Where's Cisco made?
So I don't know anymore. I'm just talking off the top of my head at the moment. At least Cisco has more of a U.S. backing, if you will.
Okay.
And has more, because I know a lot of DoD and things a lot of 3-letter agencies use a ton of Cisco phones, and the old style Cisco, not the SIP, even though I would imagine some of the security measures are being pushed over into the SIP phones for Cisco, but it's the old Cisco call manager and things like that was really advanced crap. And maybe that'd be the way to do it. I know I'm not trying to name and shame Yealink. Don't get me wrong. I've used Yealink for years. We were talking about it before here. And like I said, I'm not trying to name and shame Yealink by any means, but if you just look at Yealink, they have a history of issues for years and years. And we've said it before that when are you going to start looking at the products and the vendors that you use and start considering something else that may be a little bit more security minded, security focused, and being able to provide you a little bit better sleep at night, knowing that your data's not getting packet captured and sent off to party institutions in foreign countries.
This is one of those instances where I'm not going to blame the vendors, meaning the manufacturers, because we can say Yealink's doing it because they're a Chinese company. Okay,
good,
whatever. There's international espionage, all the fun James Bond type shit. Fine. Super micro.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
So let's take the end product out of it and let's talk about what can we do as technology providers to actually make these things more secure? How do we mitigate the threat? Because that's 90% of what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
After we set something up, it's about mitigating new ways. Personally, I think get off don't even VLAN these things. Put them on a separate LAN, separate network, like physical separation, different zone on the firewall. Or if you can swing it, different firewall.
Yeah. Like I said, complete different network segmentation would be ideal, and just making sure that you've got some sort of logging in place to see if there is any sort of communication being able to be bridged between those. Because
what type of logging would you recommend for something like this?
I guess if you're, whatever you're using for your network,
Rocket Cyber.
Yeah, any of it. So if they can communicate on that subnet, and damn you, you're trying to trigger me. But if you can communicate from your trusted environment to this network this network that's been augmented and separated from your trusted environment, you have a problem. Okay. Just ping the entire subnet, or try to do ARP cache for anything that Yealink has, or most manufacturers, I would say probably about 99% of them, they all conform to the MAC address standardization, where the first, I think, six characters of a MAC address identifies the manufacturer. Maybe first 4, I forget. But look at if any of those devices start showing up on your ARP cache.
Okay. Now, what if there's no documentation for a network?
Start immediately.
Oh, you know that. I know that. But there's a lot of people out there who just think you can plug and play.
Plug and play is bad. Look, if you don't want to, let's just take a picture. If you want to consider plug and play, look at QNAP and Synology. They are massive advocates of plug and play. And if you have plug and play on your network, you're introducing a vulnerability inside of your network that will allow foreign and threat actors to come in and start compromisations of your network. Plug and play is a very bad thing.
What about plug and play with USB sticks?
Oh, fuck me.
This episode, I really wanted to talk about the low-hanging fruit for the bad guys and overlooked attack vectors. And the other thing, I think, that's been blowing up the Twitter sphere, which is where all the InfoSec experts are, because they're too busy to have real jobs, so they all go to Twitter. But
Twitter, to be honest, is a fair way of just getting a bunch of crap out really quickly.
It's like threat intelligence, man. It's like this endless feed, and you got to figure out what's shit and what's not.
Yeah, knowing who to follow, who not to is important. But yeah,
there is a lot of fighting on Twitter. Worse than Reddit, I would say.
Oh yeah, most people thought Trump was the bane of existence for fighting and disputing and stuff. Nah, Trump hasn't been on there for a while, and I think there's more fighting now than there has been.
Twitter is boring without him. I'll give him that. Like, news is boring without him. But what I'm talking about here is FIN7 has apparently been sending out drives to government contractors, government agencies, with malware loaded on it. And if anyone's watching the video here, we have a Lily Go branded USB stick that is being sent to targets here in the US. Now, FIN7, who are we attributing them to? Are those the Chinese?
I believe those are the Chinese, yeah.
Okay. So at least they don't have to pay import duties. They make the USB sticks over there. Way to save money for them. But they're sending it via USPS and UPS. Now, my stance on USB. Why in this day and age is anyone still allowing USB drives to be used? And why is any managed services provider not explicitly approving each USB drive that is being...
All right, this is going to get into the weeds, but let me think about this. With our stack that we use, there are ways for us to identify and do an allow or deny. And again, those are listening, I'm sorry about the puppy, but I've even threw the toy away but he keeps running back in here. But anyway, it gives us the ability to whitelist and blacklist everybody and only whitelist certain approved USBs. And that's great. But take out some of the tools that we use. And if you're just doing this with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, because I guess Intune is no longer a thing, or you're doing this with even GPO, I actually looked at this weekend, unless I'm looking at somebody else's ADMX record or ADMX import to bring in some sort of customization GPO, I don't know of a way to blacklist all USBs and put it together a whitelist like you could on a switch for MAC addresses and things.
You would need a third party.
Yeah.
You can blacklist USBs in general with Windows, whether it's Intune.
Exactly.
Or GPOs, which to me are 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I know I'm going to catch flack for that, but it's practically doing the same shit. One's cloud, one's on-prem. Or instead of blacklisting all USBs, you can say anything that's a storage medium can be blocked.
And that's where you need the third parties for.
Yeah, and that's where you want to approve this iPhone as something specific, a specific class, maybe not as a hard drive, maybe it's an input device, a camera, or something. Or we are the #1 cybersecurity podcast, so we both have DSLR-ish cameras, sort of, not really. Do we want to approve those things as audio-visual devices, or do we want to approve them as audio-visual and something with storage on it?
Yeah, most of them are connected by a USB with the micro, and I got DLSR, and it has the ability to connect to Wi-Fi. Do I let it? No.
Jump box.
Exactly.
Everything's a jump box at this point.
Everything. You really got to, goes back to a lot of stuff that we've said before. Asset management, knowing what's on your network, what's being connected, and what's allowed to and not allowed to. We are clients that we've had for a year. We're even to this day, we're like, hey, what exactly is this? Because there's always stuff being introduced. There's always new applications that some dev team inside of a company is trying to do or whatever. And we're always having these conversations. So it's never we're going to set a blanket zero trust policy and we don't have to touch it again. These are conversations that people have got to have with their clients.
The other thing is that people are afraid to cut everything off when they go in. I'd rather shut it, other than the obvious stuff, I'd rather shut everything else down. And if there's an issue or you need it, make your case for it.
Yes and no. So if we're going into a regulated space, absolutely. Shut it all down, zero trust right from the gate, and blacklist it all, and then start going through and whitelisting. Especially if they got some sort of firewall configuration that you can export and analyze and go through that config, that'll help a lot of downtime and problems. But anyway, when you're going into an unknown space, an unknown vertical, an unknown this or that, being able to constantly monitor the network and having daily calls. Look, we're trying to get you to zero trust. We're trying to get you we're only allowing things. We're leaving the door open a little bit so that way we can start looking at all this stuff. I need to know what this is. What is this? What is that? What is that? What is this? And most of the time I see, just forget MSPs, but security practitioners or those who claim to be security practitioners unwilling to talk to their clients about it because it creates friction.
What about those companies that are now selling themselves as managed cybersecurity services?
Fuck me. I think most of them are just crap. That's why I didn't want to come up. I didn't want to be the MSSP. I didn't want to be the managed security services provider.
There's no such thing, right? I think it's a marketing concept. I don't think it's an actual practitioner type at this point, at least.
Yeah. MSP is a managed solutions provider. You buy a certain number of products, you put them together in a bundle, you tack on some T&M, you sell it as a package. You are providing and managing a solution. You are not creating a solution. You're not creating products. You're not doing any of this crap. Nor does most of the MSPs that are out there really understand the products that they're selling. They are more invested in leveraging their vendors of the MSP products and the channel only bullcrap than actually understanding and being able to do it themselves. That's where I rub a lot of people the wrong way. Because
I've had a little bit of a change of perception for this podcast. You remember when I used to say, fuck it, I'm not helping anybody?
Okay, here we go.
I want to help. I want to be of service. I want to create conversations that create more questions, that leave you with more questions than answers so people can start to think, okay?
Absolutely.
So with this USB thing, as someone who's seen incidents that have resulted in bad USBs, business email compromise, and every other way that they get into the network, what would you tell someone? What would you tell a company to ask their IT personnel provider or whomever does their IT to address how USBs are being used in the environment?
I honestly, in a USB situation, I would ask them, why are they even being allowed? And what practical, physical best case is there to allow a USB?
Okay.
And I literally carry this thumb drive around anytime I go and do physical pen tests or I'm talking with a new prospect. It's got a Windows to Go installation on it. Do you know how easy it is for me to get into a workstation or server using Windows to Go?
A lot easier than it probably should be.
Yeah. Being able to boot up from a USB and start mitigating files inside of an OS. Once it comes back up, I can be able to bring in a command prompt by changing a couple of files around.
And how do we mitigate that?
Having tools to detect that, looking at, I think even you and I talked about this not so long ago with it's been around for a while. I'll just mention it. The sticky keys, the Windows sticky keys exploit. I call it an exploit, but it's a way to leverage sticky keys to bring up a command prompt. And since Windows, I think even far back as Windows XP, the sticky keys application has had the same MD5. Keeping a monitor, is that file still the same hash? If not, you got a problem, Sam.
And how do they get in contact with you to unfuck that?
barricadecyber.com.
There you go.
911, ask for Eric. Anyway.
You should create an email address, 911@barricadecyber. That's not for that piece of software that we already use it for.
I was about to say, no. That would cause so much problems. But anyway, now I need to change that email address. But anyway, yeah, let's just take a lot of manufacturing still is in the States, even though a lot of it is outside. But if you think of a plant, you think of logistics and everything like that, how hard would it be to potentially walk into a shipping department or a loading dock or whatever the term you want to use and plug in a USB device?
Are we talking my clients or the average client?
I would say the average.
Not very good. Very high probability that they can execute off a USB. I will say that every last one of my managed clients, we explicitly approve every USB device, and USB storage is blocked and never allowed. You need to send something in, use the cloud application.
Yeah.
There's no use case in this day and age that justifies, to me, the use of USB storage.
With what I'm getting ready to release in the next week, it may make you want to rethink that, but we'll see.
But there's always something, right? How to mitigate.
Yeah.
Like, that's the name of the game. It's whack-a-mole. That's actually what we should call cybersecurity. Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole.
What else you got on your plate? What's going on in the incident response world these days?
Not really a whole lot, to be honest with you. We're just hanging on. Lockbit 2.0 is still doing their crap. Grime is started picking back up again. There's normal threat actors doing normal threat actor things.
What's going on with FIN7 and those guys? They are getting more and more popular.
They are. A lot of the stuff that's being done about Fin or being talked about FIN7 is from a 30,000 foot view. I got to spend some time this week, and I'll report back on the next episode about what some more details about what FIN7 is doing. I got to do some digging because a lot of this stuff is really hushed and set for the 30,000 foot view. Like I said,
I have a former vendor. Spoke with the owner via email, I think just before the Christmas break. And he was telling me that they've been dealing with some nation state hacks coming out of China.
I believe it.
I asked for more data, but he's like, no, they're going through it with the 3-lettered agencies. So I'm just like, okay, would love to read up on that one day, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what the problem with trying to find any of the meat and the potatoes of the FIN7 information is because a lot of it is around government agencies and things of that nature. So it's hard to get, like I said, the meat and potatoes of a lot of this stuff, but hopefully I'll be able to find some stuff.
Cool. That's it for me.
That's it for me. Thanks again, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen and ghouls that are out there on the internet, if you have made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of amplifiedandintensified.com. You know what? A recent change to the platform. Shiva has put together a new website, amplifiedandintensified.com. If you have heard anything that you have liked about this podcast and you want to engage Shiva or myself, or be able to help sponsor by donating us some coffee, all the links of our calendars, buying us coffee, past episodes of both the podcast and the YouTube version are all now on amplifiedandintensified.com. Go there for all of your needs. Thank you so much. And until next time, take care.